Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. I'm so glad you're here and you're listening into the podcast. I know I say it all the time and I will continue to say it, and it really comes from my heart. I appreciate you for listening into the podcast because without you, there is no podcast. And because you've been listening in, you helped us get ranked in the top 5% of all podcasts globally, according to Listen Notes. So thank you. Really appreciate you. And I ask you to share the podcast with a friend and rate, review, subscribe. It'll help us keep it going. Okay. All right. So now today, this is a solo episode, uh, and I will be reflecting on a story here in the beginning. I'll be reflecting on a story, a memory that I have from, I don't know, maybe I was about 5 years old, and it happened to be uh, at Christmas time. Now, the reason why I'm reflecting, I'm framing this episode with a story about Christmas because it just so happens that this episode goes live on Christmas Day. But the message will apply to you no matter when you're listening to this. All right. But I'm just going to frame it in this story about Christmas because of the timing of the episode. And you may have heard in previous episodes that I grew up in Connecticut. And I always say that with great joy and love because all my family's still there. And I don't know, I just have fond memories. So, anyway, I was about 5 years old, and it may have been a couple days before Christmas, or maybe it was Christmas Eve. But I distinctly remember being in my living room where we grew up, and that's where the Christmas tree was. We had this huge live Christmas tree with these beautiful lights and gifts under the tree. I don't know where everybody else was, but I was in the living room by myself, and there was a window uh, right behind the sofa, so I could step up on there. So I must have been small because I just had my knees on the cushion and looking out the window with my hands sitting, with my chin sitting on my hands, looking out the window and into the sky. And as I was looking out, and it was dark outside, so it was night. And as I was looking up, I thought for sure I saw Santa and the reindeer just go by. I was convinced. I was like, oh, there's Santa. And there was Rudolph and the reindeer in the sky, just real fleeting, right? And so I don't think I mentioned it to anybody, but I was convinced and I was satisfied. And then I just went on to bed after seeing Santa and Rudolph. All right. So that was my child imagination in action. And I want to say more about imagination later. But for now, as we enter this season of Christmas, or if you're listening to this at another time, this season, um, as I mentioned, it'll apply to you at any time. But if you're listening to it during the Christmas season, think of Christmas more than just a time of celebration, material gift giving, and tradition. I mean, all that's great, but think of it as a decisive moment for reflection and renewal. The energy of the season invites us to pause and take a step back from our busy lives, allowing us to think about who we are and who we want to be. Christmas represents a symbolic time of transformation, of reawakening to who we are becoming. And it offers us a chance to realign with the deepest parts of ourselves. It's the perfect opportunity to be intentional about who we are and who we are becoming, and how we express that truth in every aspect of our lives, from our relationships to our personal growth to our careers and beyond. When we align more fully with our authentic selves, we are essentially stepping into the person we are meant to be. For each of us, being our authentic selves is our true purpose. So we must align with who we're meant to be. And this alignment isn't about changing who we are. Rather, it's about peeling away the layers that have gotten in the way of our true essence. It's about living a life that reflects who we truly are, our deepest passions, our core values, our natural abilities. And when we do this, we experience more fulfillment, not just as a fleeting feeling, but as a deep sense of peace, joy, and true purpose. Living in harmony with who we truly are brings profound satisfaction. So rather than conforming to external expectations or trying to fit ourselves into boxes that don't serve us, the more we connect with our true selves, the more we naturally attract the people, opportunities, and experiences that resonate with our authentic energy. And this creates a ripple effect of positive transformation. And we begin to feel more centered, grounded, and at ease with ourselves and the world around us. So you might be saying, well, how do I start this process of aligning with my authentic self? One way is to take some time to imagine. That's right. Use your imagination. Imagination is a gift you were born with, and it's one of the most creative tools at your disposal. It's a gift that we all have and often take for granted, neglect, or do not use to its fullest capacity. And it's more than daydreaming or wishful thinking. It's an innate transformative power. Think of imagination as the lens through which you glimpse what could be, what's possible. Using your imagination is a conscious way. Using your imagination in a conscious way is not just fantasizing, it's actively participating in the creative process. Imagination is more than a tool, it's an inner gift. And when you imagine, you are using that inner gift as a tool to see new possibilities. So I encourage you to use this gift to imagine, aligning more fully with your authentic self and stepping into the person you're meant to be. You may be saying, well, how do I do that? All right. Well, as I mentioned earlier, it's a time of reflection. Start by reflecting, and I'll give you 3 questions to reflect on. First one, and this is in the realm of your relationships. Ask yourself this question. Ask yourself, if I am being authentic, I'm going to start again with that question. Ask yourself, am I being authentic in my family and relationships? And if not, if I were, what would that look like? So ask yourself if you're being your true self. And if you are being your true self, what would that look like? That's the first question. Second question, and this is in the area of your personal growth. If you are being true to yourself in terms of well being and personal growth, what would that look like? If you are being true to yourself in terms of your well being and personal growth, ask yourself, what would that look like? Right. And the third question for reflection, and this is related to your career. If you were being true to who you really are, ask yourself, what would your career look like? If you were being true to who you really are, what would your career look like? Take some time and reflect on those questions. And it's not something that you can just do and be done in a minute necessarily. So really take some time to think about that. Ask yourself those questions, answer them, and reflect on them. Then imagine. Imagine having relationships that are soul nurturing and that are true to who you are. Imagine having practices, habits, or routines that nurture your body, your mind, your spirit, and they support your growth and happiness. Imagine having a career that is meaningful and fulfilling. Because here's what happens when we imagine. When we take time to imagine these areas of our lives, we create a clearer picture of what aligns with our authentic selves. And like any journey, it begins with awareness. The more we can see our ideal life in our mind's eyes, the more we can move toward it in reality. It's not about achieving perfection or figuring it all out immediately. It's about slowly but intentionally taking the first steps toward your true self. So when we start aligning with the vision of ourselves, we begin to feel a shift in our energy. And little by little, we start creating a life that's in harmony with who we really are. That's where the transformative power kicks in and actually change happens. We become more of who we're meant to be. And in turn, life feels fuller, more joyful, more meaningful, and in true purpose. So during this season of reflection and renewal, take some time to open the gift of imagination and begin to imagine aligning more fully with your authentic self and stepping into the person you are meant to be. All right, that's our episode for today. And if it resonates with you, share it with a friend or leave a review. I'd love to hear your thoughts or your questions. So connect with me on LinkedIn or other channels at Robin L. Owens, PhD, at Robin L. Owens, PhD. Meanwhile, keep tapping into the transformative power of your imagination to step into the person you are meant to be. And until next time, this is Dr. Robin.